today we invited Nienke and Jaap. And Nienke Janssen is one of the founders from OT301, which is the old film academy. And it was squatted in 1999. And you are running it with association, a horizontal organization, in a very democratic way. And you bought the building when?
2007.
2007. So she will explain about the way you organize OT301 and also about all the experience that you have so far, which is a lot. And Jaap is one of is a member of the board of NAC. Is it like do you pronounce it like that? Like
NAC.
Yeah. And which is a foundation in Rotterdam, and they made a deal with a building corporation, housing corporation, to use all the empty buildings in the neighborhood Charlotte, right? And you don't have to pay rent to the housing corporation, but all the artists that live there pay a little bit rent, as far as I understood. And this rent is used for maintenance and also an art fund. And in that sense, you created some kind of system that can do without any subsidies, etc., and so on, and works quite independently.
Welcome everybody on this Sunday afternoon. Thank you too for the organization to invite us to tell something about our plans and project that we run in Rotterdam. We founded the NAC Foundation in 2004 because we were in a huge squat situation in the street with 40 houses. And then the local government said that only if we would unite together we could stay, because they didn't want contact with 60 individuals, but only with one group. So that's when we founded the foundation and tried to get all the people that were inside the houses into the same direction, which was very hard to do. What is Foundation NAC? We are a non-profit organization founded to manage low-cost studio and living spaces for young artists. The goal of the foundation is to stimulate cultural activities in Rotterdam with a focus on Oud-Charloes. What do we do to achieve this? We're taking over the management of the housing corporations on certain housing complexes. We're generating and managing these complexes. We're generating collective project spaces. And we're creating our own cultural funds, which I will tell later on a little bit more about. What do we stimulate? The mutual collaboration between the artists, the collaboration between artists and other social partners, like the housing corporations or the local municipality. The connections between artists and the responsibility to their environment. Why do we do this? Because we try to be an example to policymakers, municipalities and civic offices. Because we think political agendas change too fast to take impossibilities for an answer. And we think artistic ideas and initiatives can become leading principles for urban development. Here we started squatting in 2002. Then in 2004 we founded the foundation, and then we asked to all the artists in the street in an open call, how would your street look? Would it look like the best? Because the local municipality said it's nice that you are inside the buildings, but we don't see it. So then we did an open call. So how would your environment would look the best? So the first thing we did, we started to paint everything. And as you can see in the front, the whole street was like full of anti-objects. Everything against parking. Here also the blue metal pieces, but there were like 10, 20 different things in the street, and they were all anti. So we thought, well, we have to change that into something positive. So then we started to buy a lot of wood, and we created a positive sculpture in the street of almost 300 meters long, which is used as benches or as a bar. And we closed all the holes in the street up where the cars could park on the sidewalk, because we have a very active Turkish garage in the street. And they're really absolutely asocial people. So we created more or less our environment, and we said to the local municipality, we first build it and afterwards you come to check if it's okay. So we do this without any permits, because else we cannot work, and they agreed on that. So that's the way we create, we take responsibility, and they are absolutely fine with it. Then there was a unsafety feeling in the street because of missing street lighting. So we made alternative street lighting of light boxes, which we use every year for another artist with an idea. This is our project space in the street, which people can use for free for everything what they want. So there was 2 years, there was a Bart store inside. It's a B art, so they sold like side products of artists that they make next to their artworks. And now we have a platform, it's called Artplaats, and they try to generate workshops created by artists to bring them to the schools or to companies, because also in Rotterdam all the activities for kids are taken away with the crisis, so there's nothing cultural for them to do. After we managed to make a contract with the first housing owner, the second one was just waiting when that was finished. So this is a block from Vestia, and as soon as we had the contracts, they said, well, show us the contract, and we got this block, the whole block, in like 2 weeks. So we got 35 studios more and an inner garden, which was never used by the people. They could only look to the garden. So we made like stairs to all the balconies so that people can enter. And there's a fence in the back, which have like now a lock, number lock, that everybody can enter the garden if they want. They demolished one of the blocks because it was really bad. And then we found out if they just straighten the ground there, put a fence around it and renew the sidewalk, it will cost around 10,000 euros. So we said, okay, if we also put 10,000 on the table, and Vestia also, we have 30,000 and we can do something nice. So then we started to think about the public or the semi-public space, how we could do that. Put 2 fences in the garden, so you can open the gates to make it really public or semi-public or really private. We put a garden inside. We put a greenhouse on it with a fence through the middle of the greenhouse. There's now an educational program for children from the neighborhood to learn how to grow vegetables and what kind of animals there are in the city. And that's now running for 2 years, and now we got like 12 people from the neighborhood that also join in the garden. So now you can open up the fences more and more to make it more public space, but that always takes a while. So we use it for Christmas parties, Halloween parties, for this open studio weekend. It's like a facility that people can use. Also we adopt artworks from artists that are in basements. This one we put up, it's from Italian artists. And then also when we put it up, the local municipality asked if we had a permit for it. And the only answer we gave is that we just forgot it to ask. And then it's okay, they just leave us alone with that. This around the corner is our project studio. It's a residency where we try to attract foreign artists that work more out of their studio than only inside the studio. This is the Wielerwaal, it's the 3rd part in our neighborhood where we work. It's an old emergency city from just after the Second World War. It's really strange. It's, I think there's 1 black person living in 550 houses. It's really exceptional for Rotterdam. It's like super white trash area here. And we have now 11 of these small houses, which create a lot of problems with the neighborhood, because they accuse us of everything what they come up with in their minds. But it's interesting. This is Half Uni. It's an empty shop in our neighborhood. We used it for 1 exhibition to talk about Rotterdam South. At the end we stayed in for 2.5 years with 4 collective initiatives, and we opened it up as a small coffee corner with free internet. But it's closed now because there's a Turkish supermarket inside. Then we have our financial construction. We have 100 studios now in this year. Every address pays €100 a month. So we have an income of 120,000 euro a year. From that we pay the fixed cost to run the foundation, the inside maintenance for the inside of the houses, and our cultural fund. So we have 120,000 euro a year. 50% is like fixed costs and material, and 50% is working hours. Those 50% working hours is 60,000 euro, and we pay everybody 10 euro per hour, also inside cultural projects. But the work people deliver, it's like really professional work. We only work with professionals. So if you have a normal let's say rate per hour, it's around 50 euros an hour. So we say our ratio is 1 to 5. So the 60,000 of the working hours is actually 300,000 valued. So together with the 60,000 of fixed costs, we think we do a social investment directly back into the neighborhood of 360,000 euro a year. And we try to get as much money free for our cultural fund. This was the basis of founding the foundation, not to just be an anti-squat, but to have like extra value to it. So it's a Mia Mia, mind your area, move your ass. And people can claim their own money back, which they pay with the rent, with projects with a public character. We don't have a blueprint of how we do it. This is now running for almost 2.5 years. And we try to let the blueprint develop by seeing how the projects work, because now there is no funding anymore in the whole of Holland. So we try to provoke also the artists to use that money that they get 100% from us, to use it to get co-funding. This is a project we are doing now we did it for 3 years, because we have everywhere in Rotterdam, in our neighborhood, you have samenscholingsverboden. It's like a gathering prohibits. You cannot gather with more than 3 people on the street, because that creates unsafety. So they put those signs everywhere next to the public benches. But that was like very contradictional. The next year they took away all the benches from the neighborhood. So then we created a bus stop on wheels. We call it the illegal bus stop. And we moved it every Friday afternoon to one of those prohibited areas. And if the police then will come, we could all stand on the bus stop, because there it was not forbidden to wait for the bus. And we were having a Friday afternoon drinks there.
What is your deal with these housing corporations? Like, how long can you stay in these housing blocks? Or is there a maximum, is there a limit in time, or can you stay forever? Can you take over the whole neighborhood this way? Or?
We talked with them, and we told them we need at least 5 years, because else you will not have an outcome of nothing. You know, it will be temporary. We need 5 years to see how it works, where it goes. Then with the first street, we got it for 10 years. Then that's for 99% sure that you get it for that time, because always something can happen that they have to take it back. Then Vestia in the second block only wanted to give it for 2 years, and we said no, we want a minimum of 5 years, but they couldn't give it for 5 years, they said. And then we thought, yeah, if we don't do it, then nothing happens. So we said yes to the 2 years. We are already in now for 5 years. Next week we hear if Vestia will go bankrupt, and then we have no idea what's going to happen. I'm for sure that the next 5 years to that block is nothing going to happen, because we are down at the ladder. The block is paid off. You know, we maintain it completely ourselves. So I don't know. We became from temporary project, we became a steady value in the neighborhood. That is quite interesting, especially in the cultural scene. Is the word temporary has to go. You know, temporary is over. It doesn't create anything.
But how do the housing corporation respond to it? Like, does it already start to like give higher value to the housing blocks aside, or? And do they, you know, like, what is their interest to invest also in this project, and how do you relate to their interest?
Well, yeah, we're in a special area. I mean, like almost half a year ago, there were like old Minister Deetman and old Mayor Mans from Enschede wrote a report about Rotterdam South, because the social problems are so big there that they cannot, the city cannot solve the problems. So it became a state-run project now. Now the problems are so big there that they try everything to gentrify the neighborhood, but it's all not working. I don't know if we bring up the value from the surrounding houses. I don't think so. And we are not put in the neighborhood because of some ideas they had. I mean, we did it ourselves. We confront them the whole time with, hey, we want this, we want that. So that, yeah, and that a neighborhood will go up or prices will rise. Happens everywhere. It's hardly that it goes really down, and here it cannot go more down than where we are now. So
yeah.
How many are you motor in this?
The motor?
Yeah, how many motors people you have?
We have a board of 7. We do the daily business with 2.5.
But you hire like temporarily some people to help to construct?
Yeah. So I said the first 6 years we build on the basis, so the collective project space is the garden, and then we hire people from inside.
And they will pay 10 euros per hour?
Yeah. To create their own surrounding, let's say. Yeah, if you work one long day, you pay the user fee for your house for a month. You get it back in just one day.
Yeah. And how many artists are there? 100 artists?
No, we have
more, because the blocks are
84 paid addresses now,
yeah.
so almost 100, because it makes the financial model a little bit easier. But I think we're around 150, 160 artists.
Ah, yeah. But they pay per house or per apartment or per
address?
Okay,
per address.
Yeah.
And water and stuff is extra?
Sorry?
Use of water and electricity is extra?
That's all private.
Yeah.
Yeah, I get a fee per year to do everything.
Okay.
So that's because we don't want to get paid as like directors of the project, because then we don't have a project. So I get I think 3,000 euro a year for everything.
And are you like, because you said also like you want to kind of like show to also municipalities and maybe housing corporations and so on how a neighborhood could function. How do you do that, and how, do you feel that they get convinced and that they try to use your structure elsewhere as well, or like the way?
Local politics not. I mean, that's really hard to change their minds. Also, what we say, like, because their agendas change really fast. So every 4 years you have somebody else. The housing corporations, yes, because they own the houses. You know, we are now busy with a second project in Rotterdam to advise another group who gathers together for a neighborhood in Krooswijk, where they try to demolish the whole neighborhood, but it's all stopped now, so everything is empty.
Oh yeah.
There something is growing now, also from inside out, so that's really good. So we try to advise them everywhere where we can.
Yeah, I was wondering if you will stay focused on artists as tenants, because I could imagine that this could be a model that could be welcoming all kinds of people. And on the other hand, I was also thinking, that's another thought, how this interrelates with Rotterdam as a place to live and work for artists, also the opportunities to do projects, to have exhibitions, etc. Well, like everywhere else, it's decreasing. So I also think it's interesting if you work in a big scale, how this interrelates with the artistic scene in Rotterdam.
We work mainly with young artists. That's where it starts, because we think they can put an extra value. That's not something we demand, but we hope for.
Yeah.
I think from the 150 artists, there's maybe 1/3 is active. Because if everybody would be active, everybody would just have like 100 euro to spend on a project. but that is okay. So that's why we try to profile with young artists. What we also found out is that, for example, Rotterdam is promoting that it's a very open international city. But on the other hand, you have a Rotterdam law, and it's in the bad neighborhoods. They have a Rotterdam law. It means that you have to have a year contract and a minimum income of 120% of the minimum income, else you cannot get a rent contract. So those foreign artists that do a master degree, they cannot stay in Rotterdam because they cannot anywhere register. So for all the addresses we have, we made together with the municipality an exception that people can register there. If you look to the flyers and the projects in Rotterdam, I think we host a lot of people that would else have gone. What we found out 8 years ago is that if a housing corporation want to demolish a block, they have to immediately start building something new because it's bad for the neighborhood if it's empty.
Yeah.
But the municipality cannot keep up with the paperwork because they have to make all the rules and all the vergunningen, licenses, but they cannot keep up. So then the whole process just stops. And then they can make a plan for the first street we have, but it's a really big plan. Right? It goes off the table. So then if you have to create a new plan, it will take 7 years. On that point we stepped in and said, we want to take it over.
Very inspiring to listen to your story. It's the story I'm going to tell, and also the building I'm going to present, and the organization is a little bit different. One of the biggest differences in Amsterdam. And also we started, the story is more, what I want to share with you is more going inside the organization, because we do everything under one roof. First I want to go a bit into how we started. We were in a squat in OVG in 1989, and it was a big abandoned hospital, and a group entered there, and we had studios there, and a lot of living and combination of things going on. But then the building came under threat of eviction, and I was one of the artists there, and with a group of artists on the ground floor, we thought like we want to continue together, and we want to squat something else together and take a big chunk of the group which is in this building with us. So we planned we planned a squat, kind of like we squatted a building which was not on the it was a 429, meaning that the building was not empty for a year. So it's basically you cannot squat it. If they come with the law, they can just evict you immediately. It was in a time where a lot of things were going on. There were a lot of buildings were evicted in the city, and still going on. And the mayor at that time was Partij, and he was a bit aware of the loss that the city was losing, a lot of like interesting places for subculture, art, and so in the city there was on a political level a lot going on, and as a group we decided to go a bit into that field also on a political level, and try to force the politicians to stand behind us, and we entered the building. And from day one, we started to have a talk with the politicians of Amsterdam. And this gave us a kind of like safety ground for further negotiations with the owner. And, and before we squatted the building, we united as a vereniging. So we were already a bit organized. Yeah. So. En de vereniging is vereniging EHBK. It's Eerste Hulp bij Kunst. We squatted the former Film Academy at the Overtoom in Amsterdam. It was a great building. It's a great building because it was completely set up for having studios, for having there was a big there are two big studios for I don't know, parties, showings, whatever. You can do a lot of things. There's a cinema, and yeah, it was just great. And so we could just start playing. Yeah, here are a bit like articles from the days when we scored it. We had a lot of politicians coming in. We had a lot of media coming in because we really we screamed a lot, so we got a lot of attention, and this gave us a really good ground to actually go into negotiations with the owner, which was the Stadsdeel. And after 4 years, we got a temporary contract signed, which was a big development also in our organizations, because we were a group of squatters also. We had internally a lot of struggle going further, and also deciding together what to do next step. So especially in the first years, it was really hard to stay a group and to decide what next steps we wanted to take. Because each time when you're in a process, when you scored a building, there are people that want to go, they're going quite fast and they want to settle down and they want to organize and they want to negotiate. I was one of them. And others are really on a different level and they don't want to negotiate. They're in this hardcore anti-everything mode, which is also very functional for an organization, especially if you do it collectively, because it's something you need, because sometimes people go a bit too quick and then you end up in a situation where you don't want to end up in. We eventually signed a contract with all of the members. And this meeting I can remember very well. It was all the meetings were like attended by all the users that time. It was 27 people at that time, and everybody had to sign their name and on a piece of paper, you know, saying, okay, we're going to sign a contract. And that meeting was, I think it ended like it took us six hours or something to get all that. Yeah, it's very social processes going on there. When we scored it, we also communicated a lot with the neighborhood, because that's one thing that is very important to do, is of course to make people around the building that you scored aware of what you're actually doing, what your plans are, and to get a kind of like support also from the neighborhood, because they feel very threatened. People can feel very threatened, and so we had a lot of communication also with the neighborhood during that time. And while being there, we formed, we made a kind of first mission statement. Actually, if you look at this mission statement, it's now we are very busy with formulating a new mission statement and a vision for the future. And me and my partner, we were just looking at this one, and we were like, yeah, maybe we should not change so much, you know. We kind of like.
But what is this mission statement? Sorry,
this is a network of people from various disciplines in art and life that creates independent culture as a lively global Amsterdam neighborhood art house, on which an open with an open agenda to the public. This theory is supported by the gathering of representatives, the various disciplines, and their know-how, group mentality, and a force of equipment. This building will be open to public always. Our aim is to make a synergy between the different disciplines possible, and that offer low, no budget something. Something. A ground.
Were you, like, when you spotted it, you didn't pay any rent, of course, but then you signed a contract, you needed to start to pay rent?
Yeah, when you, we had a kind of, we paid, I think it was 50 guilders or 100 guilders a month for each space. So
rent. Yeah.
Yeah, but that was more to be able to pay the gas and electricity and all the user costs.
Yeah.
And of course, in the beginning, we also wanted to invest. I mean, we organized a lot of things, openings, parties, to be able to generate money, to buy also equipment and to upgrade the facilities which were in the building. So that was the financial structure in the beginning. When we had to sign a contract, of course, there was also a big question towards the group. Okay, are you willing to pay more, and how are we going to divide how are we going to share the load? It was not a lot of money we had to pay for the building, so it was doable for the group also because we had a public function, so we could generate money with public events. So it was a very open structure, and we shared the load a lot. This whole financial thing really developed and changed because now we are owners of the building, and we have a big debt at the bank, which has a lot of influence also on our organization on many levels, and also on our image. So, but in the beginning we were, actually the program didn't really change that much. The program is very various. We program art things, parties. We also want to support activist things. We have a vegan restaurant, so it's quite various. We also do things for the neighborhood, so there's children program, mainly Sundays, and we have a lot of experimental music going on. So there's also a big platform for dance and experimental music, and art was in the beginning more on a higher level than it is at the moment, but we're working on that also. The building is a very open building, and we want to stay open. It was also one of the mission, one of the things that we found very important. So if we squat a building, it's not, I mean, it's our building because we want to take responsibility for what we have together, but we do it for the city because we believe that these cities need platforms, like low-level platforms for subcultures or for people to develop or experiment or whatever. At the moment, the place is really turned into a kind of subcultural party event place. I mean, this is what a lot of people know it but for the parties, which is a shame because we have a lot of history and a lot of knowledge also inside the building, and a lot of different things are programmed. So at the moment we're also very busy with putting that on another level and try to communicate also the building in a different way. At the moment we're busy as an organization to formulate a new vision and mission for the future, and this has been done with subsidy from Amsterdam Fonds voor de Kunst. So we are now busy with the whole group, with all the members to in brainstorm sessions. Last year we had a lot of brainstorm sessions in asking all the members about what they think about the organization, what they think about the position of the building at the moment, of the image, of what goes on in the building, and what goes on, how to make relationships with the outside world, and how to communicate and how to develop ourselves, also how to organize in the future. All the public spaces are been rented by different groups, and they program the spaces themselves, so they decide themselves what to do with it. But of course, if there's something going on that is really against what we as a total, or then you come in the big meeting. We also have a big sound studio on the top floor. So there's really a lot of possibility also this time, like while being an owner, to develop the building more, because at the moment we have a kind of like a big building and a lot of space, and at the moment also a big chunk of the group find that we need to use it a bit more and to share it a bit more, but also to find ways how to share and how to develop these places. by preventing becoming an institute, because that is something that we find very important. Also, that is something that came out of the brainstorms, that people like this low level, low key, horizontal organizational structures, because it's also, yeah, it doesn't put a lot of expectations on what you do at first, and a lot of things can happen by instant, and you can, you know, there's a lot of possibilities under one roof, which we want to share. Anyways, also what has been done here now in the mains, gathering a lot of money from individuals, we also try to do it, but we had a limited amount of time, and it's just very hard to get a lot of money together, and also to find a format for it. To how do you work out the ownership, and how do you organize it? So we decided to accept money, or make a deal with Triodos Bank, which landed us the money partly to buy and also partly to renovate. We have a little, our financial situation is a little bit more detailed and complex as what you presented, because we have, first we have a loan, and we have income and a lot of costs, and it's all on one roof, so it's not so simple, and I also didn't really work that out. But it's interesting to see how, if you simplify finance, how much you can also gain with it, and how much you can, also realize it again, also on different levels, and give it back to the people that invest also in the building, which is in our case a very difficult point, because we bought the building with a lot of energy and voluntarily hours of a lot of people, and at the moment where we're in a situation that it will never be that if we paid off the building it will be ours, it will always stay a place where, in a way, the city, the politics made sure that it will not become our property. Yeah, which is also very difficult in Amsterdam. The only place which is owned, also the land, is from a old squat in the city, Frankrijk. It's the only place that owns the land also. We are dealing a lot internally with each other and finding out how to organize and how to do it in a nice way, how to stay open, how to not become a closed organization, and how to enable each person that is kind of part of the building or whatever. I would even say it. I would even love to be able to say that everybody owns the building. I always said that. I would say, like, yeah, you're also responsible for OT 301 and what happens in the future. But actually, that's maybe too idealistic. When you squat a building and you have a lot of space and you need to develop, first you want to develop, of course, the context where you're in. So you start to paint the walls or not, or start to clean up and make structures for that. And yeah, do you get paid or not? And then buy also toilet paper. Do we do it collectively or do we don't do it? Or no, but these are like really. These are very fundamental things, because they're in all these kind of small things. There are like really radical choices been made, and buying toilet paper collectively means that everybody pays for the toilet paper, and you need to make a system for it. So it's and then if you do public events. You need a lot of toilet paper, and do I have to pay for that? So it's really, in these kind of things, it's the toilet paper discourse conversation.
It's the first time most of the time.
Yeah. Because in the beginning, of course, you say, no, yes, I pay for the toilet paper. But then, really, at a certain moment, it goes a bit too...
What do these people do with it?
And the toilets get stuck by it, and like this. And then, of course, this all comes back to the group, and you start to communicate with it, and you get into fights about these things,
Totally.
which is very important, of course, for the outside, because actually it says a lot how you deal with certain kind of problems. So it's that you're actually dealing with problems together, and you try to solve things together, and you try to communicate, and that's something that gets lost when you become when you have a renting contract. Often it gets lost when you have a renting contract or you become an owner of a place. It's just basically people want to also benefit from it in a lot of things, you know, so for your own work or for your own and all the work that, I mean, I try to look at it like all the work that has been done in the building by the community is showing a different way how to deal with certain issues which are dealt with by organizations or corporations in a different way. So there's a completely different organizational structure behind it. But as a group we try to still stay horizontal and bottom up, which is causing a lot of difficulties, because that means that each member, so everybody on this table, we have to talk about maintenance, you know, like this. And certain people are kind of like off maintenance, and finance is maybe even the worst. Being the pennemaker is kind of like the less interesting position that the person wants, you know.
Or maybe not the less interesting, but maybe the most efficient. Conflictuous. And how is your organization organized? You have a board, but how are decisions being made, and are like the renters also being part of the decision-making processes, or how does that function? In comparison also to Nienke's example of like this association where everybody has the same votes.
We do it a bit different. We make all the decisions only with the board. But from the beginning on we try to create a very open structure where everybody could be responsible. So it's open to do whatever you want. I mean, we also have a loan to do some renovation. So you need a really good bookkeeper, for example, because you need to structuralize those things. We have, in the beginning, we have project space, and there we started, what is vereniging? Also a verenigingsstructure. To see if they could run that space, all the artists together, but that totally didn't function. They were not able to have one normal meeting, you know, they would sit there for 2.5 hours and nothing happened. So then there came a question how open our board was, and if people could step into the board. We said, yeah, of course, that's possible, but if you want to be part of the board, you have to commit for at least 3 years. Because it's not something you just jump in and you jump out, you know, it doesn't work like that. We have a very small board, but we have some really professionals in the board. People who work with this already for a long time, and we have some external advisory around the board, which cannot be on paper because then they get into conflictual situations. But they really help us out with really difficult questions. So it's not very democratic, but the artistic process, we don't guide the artistic process. We just guide on the backside. We maintain the housing blocks and the collective spaces. For the rest, everybody can do what they want. So we're just the maintenance organization behind it.
I ask both of you a question. It kind of came up the idea of ownership as well. You said that I would love to be able to say that we're all an owner of the building, but in fact, in Amsterdam, it somehow works out that you almost never end up owning a place. I was wondering if you could reflect on, well, how did that happen? For instance, for you, how come even though you got a loan off the bank, there's not even in a hypothetical future will you own the place? And what sort of liberties could owning a space mean to you? Because it's also, I think, a very important question for this project. To actually make ownership, shared ownership possible. Or in any case to reflect on it. And that would also be a question for you. I'm very enthusiastic about your story, and I was wondering what would happen if you would get the offer that you could own a block permanently. Would that be something you'd be interested in, to getting rid of permanence by ownership? And because somehow you seem to operate now in large blocks, but still temporary temporary situations. Do you think ownership could be a nice way of making permanent what you're doing now, or is your practice per definition temporary?
I think as board we are not interested in that. Then we would put it on the table to everybody who's inside the block and say, okay, if you want to own it, this is the possibility, or then manage it, then do it yourself, then everybody becomes his own owner. Our board will not do it, I'm quite sure. So we never talked about it, but I know a little bit who everybody stands in there. Then it's to all the people themselves. We did this to maintain a situation, and for how long we don't know, but it's not something that I have to become owner of the block for other people or the foundation. I mean, I think they can do it themselves, same as in your structure. They have to do it themselves then.
But you would consider to keep on doing this?
If it's temporary, like we do it
develop.
now.
This is the interesting part for them to
Yeah.
this. Yeah.
I mean, I made an agreement to everybody that say like, okay, we got it for 10 years, I will do it for 10 years. That's it. And while we try to work on is to create a structure that is we can share, or we can give it to somebody else.
Yeah.
Also inside the financial structure, everything.
Mm-hmm.
Our first bookkeeper just stopped now after 4 years, after 5 years. He made it like completely solid to give it to another bookkeeper.
Yeah.
She could work with it like in 2 weeks' time.
Mm-hmm.
And that is also part of how we try to work on the structure. So that's more or less it. That's half of the time we work on that, to make it really transparent and understandable for everybody else to also do it.
Mm-hmm. To answer your question, I think ownership, I mean, at the moment our status of ownership is of course not, it's relative, because in a way by saying we own the building, we as a vereniging, we have a loan by the bank, but actually by having that loan there's an erfpachtcontract and in that erfpachtcontract there's a deal with the city that for 30 years it has the building has this function. So we formulated the kind of like, yeah, what we do there. And we have a lot of freedom in that. Actually, we have, yeah. But when, I mean, for example, if we say, okay, after 10 years now, we as a group, we want to sell the building. I mean, we could do the offer. You can always do the offer, and nothing is impossible. So I don't say it is impossible, but actually on paper it's impossible for us to sell the building. So because the first owner will be the city, and but what we by owning, I think the ownership story is more on another level. It's more that you own at the moment. You protect as a group or as a movement or whatever, or you protect a certain kind of function of space. And also kind of like financial, yeah, you make sure that it's not going to be exploited too much, or that it has a different function also for the city. And this is something that I see more as ownership. I see it more in that. So now it's related to this building, and this building will stay. For example, I don't believe it will not be have this function, maybe eventually later, but it's secured in a way, connected to the city at the moment. If I think about the main and the idea that the main is, I still believe that although we say we become owners of this space, you will inside Amsterdam or inside Holland, it's almost impossible to own something by real, because you deal with the city, you deal with the surrounding, and if the surrounding says we don't want you anymore, and it is a lot of, I mean, the pressure is more than it goes over the 30%, you're out. I mean, anyway, there's this kind of like, and it also has to do with the long-term planning and everything. So that's why it's maybe also more important. Why, if you do that's nice about the main idea is that you start already with the idea everybody can become owner, That means that the whole surrounding, you know, the neighborhood and a lot of people inside the city, this could be more a important statement during this time about ownership and responsibility, and also, but then also on a different level to communicate why you're doing this or why we are doing this. But I think that should be done on a lot of different levels, also by your organization. Although you you have more a position of a corporation, I feel like this is the way I read a bit what your story, and I find it very inspiring because you go a lot outside. But in the end, there's a lot of these kind of initiatives in the city that are not communicating why, you know, they're not giving arguments why, or so that during this time I think it's very important to start to communicate it. And with this project, I think it's one of the most urgent things to do.